What's up, everyone? It's been a really long time, about 2 years since I put anything up on this channel. So today I want to talk a little bit about that, what I've been up to, and where the channel's headed. So when I made that last video, it was right before the 2019 World Cup. I talked a lot about complications in my life, and those complications kind of led to me taking a step back from paintball and missing that 2019 World Cup. So over the off season, I didn't intend on playing 2020. I hadn't committed to any team, and I wasn't actively searching for a team. So about like a week or so before the event, somebody from Brawl hit me up on Instagram and asked me if I wanted to play. It ended up working out. I wasn't able to practice with them prior to the event, so I didn't practice with them the 2 weekends leading up. And I assumed that once we got to the tournament, we would have some sort of practice slot. That didn't happen, so I went into that tournament pretty rusty. We ended up getting 5th anyway, and I kind of had this crazy groin injury after that took me out for a couple months. That being said, like right after the tournament, I flew back, and that following week is when like everything went to crap. We went into lockdown, so although I was injured, I probably wasn't going to be playing the next event anyway. That groin injury lasted for quite some time. So again, like after that event, I didn't really intend on playing the rest of the season, especially with COVID and all the travel restrictions. Basically meant that every time I traveled to the US, I'd have to quarantine for 14 days in my home, and I wouldn't be able to work. So that just wasn't maintainable. It wasn't possible for me. So 2 or 3 weeks prior to the final event of the 2020 season, to the World Cup, my old teammate Frank Anthony Tommaso, he was on Revel at the time. I played on SD Aftermath with him. He reached out to me and said that they needed a couple bodies for the event, and it ended up working out that I was able to take time off work, go down and practice NYX with them the weekend before, and play the tournament. So the tournament came around, we had a really good showing. I believe on Sunday we beat out Heat, Xfactor, and then we lost to Dynasty by a point or two, and they went on to win the tournament. So a great event. I had a lot of fun with that team. And that kind of takes me to the 2020 off season, where again, a lot kind of changed in my life. During the past 5 years, I worked as a special constable in law enforcement. So it's kind of like, the way I describe it to people, it's halfway between security and policing. So with that job, I was working a 3-on 3-off schedule. We worked 12-hour day shifts and 12-hour night shifts, and it would rotate like every 3 days. And I hated the shift work. I would always feel like crap, and I would also always miss holidays and paintball tournaments and just things that I like to do. During that time as well, the housing market was pretty hot in the area that we're living, so we sold our home and moved 2 hours north. So me and my wife both quit our jobs. And then what took my other job's place is 2 separate businesses that I started with the skills that I learned from paintball and from the vlog. So I now run a commercial video production company, as well as a wedding photography and wedding video company. On the side, I do freelance work for realtors and other small businesses. So paintball in Canada in 2020 wasn't really happening. Still restrictions in place on gatherings and things like that. I was able to play 1 10-man event and 2 OPL events, which are ran really well. And that brings me to the next stage, which is Xfactor. So prior to NXL Chicago 2020, Dimitri Meter from Xfactor reached out over Instagram and asked me what my thoughts were on potentially playing Chicago with them. It was super last minute. They needed a few bodies, and I just wasn't able to make it work with my prior commitments and things like that. I think it was like 2 weekends before the event, so super last minute. I would have loved to play, but it didn't work out. So after the event, Meter hit me up again, and I was surprised, to be honest. It just came off a second. It was a pretty close game. But like most teams at event, it was kind of obvious that they could have used an extra body or two. People were tired, people were gassed. A lot of teams would have benefited from 1 or 2 extra people. So that being said, we started talking about the World Cup and whether or not I could make that work. So I flew out to San Antonio. The first weekend, we played Infamous and Heat, and then I ended up staying with Meter for that week between practices. And the following practice, we practiced my old team, SD Aftermath. And then from there, I flew to Florida. So I was fortunate enough to take 18 days off, get out of Canada. It started to get cold, and play paintball, which was amazing. So yeah, that was the first tournament that I had played this year. Brand new team, amazing group of guys. There's a ton of talent on the team. I was really fortunate to have been able to play World Cup with Xfactor, and we ended up taking 2nd place to Dynasty. In the next video, I'm going to talk all about World Cup and Xfactor and all of that madness, and that kind of ties us into my next point, which is talking about the channel and the direction that I want to take the channel. My plan is to have a lot of different people involved. I don't want the channel to be all about me. My goal is to give you guys an inside look into players on my team, Xfactor, other professional players, up-and-coming players, divisional players, different brands, kind of all things paintball, give you guys the behind-the-scenes look about stuff. The takeaway is kind of think like paintball podcast, but a lot more video-centric focus. So video chatting with people, actual high-quality video overlays, things like that. I think it's something that the paintball community is kind of missing, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy the new format. So keep an eye out for the new videos. Thanks for stopping by.